Welcome to Camp 17. We are...
My armpits are sweaty.
My armpits are so
really
sweaty.
I don't normally sweat my armpits.
But really what we want to help you do is manage your safety. When we feel safe, we'll connect with people. My nostrils aren't as big as yours.
Your fight looks different. Your struggle is going to look different. It is not going to look the same as everyone else.
You're my best friend. You're my best friend.
Oh, girls, this video is one of my most favorite things to talk about. However, it is probably the least favorite of everyone else to talk about. Awareness, responsibility, and accountability. Man, I always say when we are in camp, I'm like, why is this so hard? And I got to thinking, it's hard because we are coming face to face with ourselves. We all have like this idea of how we respond, how we react, what's gonna happen when we work out. Sometimes it might be we feel like we are actually going to do less than what we are actually capable of. Others feel like we are gonna be really put together and we totally aren't, right? So it's hard because when we become aware of how we act or how we sound or the things that we say, how we respond to people when they don't do something that we want them to do, and how we respond or we react to them. So it can go on both ends, where we take a little bit of time and we still don't know what to do, or that we are either really quick with our mouth, and now that we know that, what happens? So there's a lot of connections that are happening, even with our body. So some of us have disconnected ourselves from our bodies. Lou's talked about this on a deep level. We've been talking about this in class on a deep level. When our bodies don't do what we want them to do, or when our bodies have been taken advantage of, or neglected, whether it be because of our own doing or someone else. These are very serious situations. They can be very simple, or they can be very intense and very serious. And so what happens in our body when when we talk about the nervous system, right? We talk about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. And in Fight Week, we're talking about learning how to fight and what that looks like. And that lies on that sympathetic side. That ET, that fast, that explosion, that reaction, that fastness, that fight. And then we have the other side, the parasympathetic, the rest, the digest. We need a balance between the two. But on this fight side, on this ET side, this explosive side, there's actually 3 different parts to this as well. There's the fight, the flight, and the freeze. So when we're talking about things where we're becoming more aware or more acquainted with our body, not just with our mouths, that's important. That is very important. We're emotional. Some of us are emotional. Depends on how you really define emotional. But if we're talking about being aware with our mouth, but then we're also talking about being aware of our bodies. And when we don't know how our nervous system works, when we didn't even really know what's happening or what side or what we're actually living in, and we begin to understand even that the way that we were raised or the things that we even believe about ourselves, they have a really big effect on our lives. But a lot of the times we just categorize these things as just our personality, when really what it is that we actually walk around with wounds that we just learn to cope with. And we walk around with those things. And so when we really when we can look at wholeness, when we can look at a balance, and we can look at what we tend to fall to, right, one side or the other, we can know that if we're used to being on one side, that probably moving to the other side and finding balance isn't going to be easy. It's going to be challenging. It's going to present a challenge. There's going to be a conflict with what we know, even through our behavior. And so identifying that we need to find that balance, and how do we find it? When we start to become aware, then we can really start moving forward. But when we look at even our bodies and I'm asking you to punch things, and I'm asking you to get on the ground and stand back up. I'm asking you to run. I'm asking you to carry something heavy. I'm asking you to do things where it requires your body. And if there's disconnect in your body, because if at some point in time in your life you had to disconnect yourself from your body just so that you felt safe, just so that you were able to make it through the day, we're working on reconnecting that. So it's not just taking responsibility for what comes out of your mouth, but it really is, it's looking at your body and saying like, okay, I want this back. I want to be fully functioning, mind, body, and spirit, not just be able to run again, and not just be able to do push-ups or have a goal of doing one pull-up or these physical goals. Those are important. But just learning how our body has been functioning for so long that's the awareness piece. Becoming aware of those strengths and those weaknesses. And then valuing the best version of ourselves. And then we put together the fight and we say, okay, I'm weak in this area. I'm okay with that. I'm okay. It doesn't define me. It doesn't make me who I am. I'm going to fight for it. I'm going to fight to find that balance. Now let's talk about some things as far as the responsibility goes. There are some things that you are responsible for that might be very difficult. As adults, we tell children, you have responsibilities. Your responsibilities are XYZ. It is to make your bed when you wake up. It's to make sure that your homework's done before you go to school. It's to make sure that your teeth are brushed. Now, as children, they need someone to help keep them accountable, because they're learning. They're little humans learning. Sometimes, even as big humans, as full-grown women, we need help. We need help remembering to do things that are good for us, that we forget. Now, we're not talking about basic things like brushing your teeth. I should hope not. Making your bed, or things that you value. We're not talking about those things, but how about like our health and wellness? How about being patient? How about stewarding our bodies? How about stewarding our money? How about there are things that sometimes we need help with to actually have someone hold us accountable for it. So accountability is an agreement with the truth. Now, sometimes we don't like to hear the truth. We really don't. We don't want to know the truth. But if we're aware of how we act and we say we want to be better, we're willing to do hard things. You're aware, you're going to take responsibility, and then you might need a little buddy to help you. That's where the tribe comes in, right? The tribe comes in and you say, I want to be better, but I'm having a hard time with my diet. I'm having a hard time being consistent coming to class. Now we're not talking about hiring babysitters to pat your butt on the way out the door. No, we're not talking about that. Because there is a level of where you just have to do it. You have to buck up and you just have to do it. Accountability with other people, or having other people help you with keeping you accountable, it's for a season. It's almost just to like get the car rolling, right? And then you pop the clutch and then you can start moving by yourself. But if we're constantly needing people, because then it's almost passing off responsibility onto them, which is not what I'm talking about. In order to get ourselves back on track, in order to get ourselves back in, there is a responsibility that we need to take. But if we're shutting our eyes, if we're just looking at everyone else and we're not looking at ourselves, right? We're just gonna keep on the same cycle. We're just gonna keep spinning around and around and around. Now, I'm not saying that this is just like a one shot and you're done. No, I'm saying this is a practice. This is something that takes practice. Being aware of how you react, how you respond, being aware of even your body, right? Just like working out. Connecting your mind to your body again, it takes practice. It doesn't just mean that all of a sudden when you make a decision and a choice to do it, that it's gonna happen. Some of us might be lucky enough where when we do just make a choice, we make a decision, it's gonna happen. But for most, in all areas, being well-rounded, there's going to be some areas where you need to practice it a little bit more than others. So we've got to give ourselves grace. We have to give others grace. We have to be willing to ask people for help. We have to be willing to look back at our story, be aware, find, this is why I respond this way. This is why I'm not willing to fight. This is why, to really look at it. Now, there might be areas, parts of your story where you go back and there might be people or places, even yourself, where you have to take responsibility for your actions. Right? We can do pretty much whatever we want to do, good and bad. We can make choices all day long, good and bad. We do not get a choice of the consequences of our actions. We don't. We make a mistake, we hurt someone, we do something, we make a choice out of hurt, we can understand it, we can try to justify it all that we want. But we do not get to choose the consequences. So there are places where you might need to go back and if there's consequences for, or there's an effect that is had by eating horribly for years. There is. It might be disease. It might be weight gain. It might be many, many, many things. And so looking at that, there might be things that you are living with now because of choices that you made before. It's part of your story now. It doesn't mean that it's your story forever, but those things, that part of your journey, is part of your story. It doesn't mean that it is forever. So becoming aware, taking back responsibility, holding yourself accountable, all things that require action. It's your responsibility as a parent to educate your kids on how to eat well, on how to be blessings and not bummers, how to also take responsibility for their actions, how to apologize. There are some things that we don't want to take responsibility for, but we need to. We have to. Okay, girls, it's a good one. See you in class.